Yugi Skin was a good looking man. Yugi Skin was the best looking gentleman in London. He had a curly brown hair, grey eyes, and a handsome face. He also had many friends. However, Yugi Skin didn't have much money. His father had been an officer in the army. His father was dead. Now Yugi had his father's fat and a few books, but no money. Yugi Skin had tried to do several jobs. He had worked for a tea merchant selling tea. He had worked for a wine merchant selling wine. But poor Yugi was not good at anything. Yugi was in love and wanted to get married. He loved Laura Morton, the daughter of an army officer. Lara loved Yugi, but her father did not want them to get married. You are a fine young man, Colonel Morton said to Yugi, but you have no money. My daughter cannot marry a man with no money. You may marry my daughter when you have a 10,000 pounds. Yugi did not have 10,000 pounds. He did not have 10 pounds. His old aunt gave him 4 or 5 pounds a week. Today, he had only 1 pound in his pocket. Yugi was almost broke. Yugi had a friend called Alan Trevor. Alan was an artist who painted pictures of people. He was a good artist and quite famous. Many people wanted him to paint their portrait. People came to Alan's studio. Alan painted their portrait in the studio. Alan's pictures were very expensive. He only painted pictures for rich men. Yugi Skin visited Alan Trevor in his studio. Alan was working on a painting. What do you think of this? Asked Alan Trevor. And what do you think of my model? Yugi looked at the painting. It was a picture of an old baker. Alan was painting a picture of a man who was standing in the corner of the studio. The model was an old man dressed in wool, torn clothes. The old man's face was sad with one hand. He held out a hat, in the other hand he held a stick. My model is wonderful, said Alan. Have you ever seen such a wonderful baker? Poor old man, said Yugi. How sad he looked. Of course, said Alan. I don't want a baker to look happy. How much is a model paid for standing in your studio? Asked Yugi. Not much, answered Alan. Only a shilling on her. And how much do you get when you sell a picture? Asked Yugi. For this picture, I will get 2,000 pounds, said Alan. You are a rich man. I think the model should get some of the Yugi. Nonsense, nonsense, said Alan. It is difficult to be a painter. It is not difficult to be a baker. Few people can paint pictures. Anyone can bake. But many people want to be rich and famous painter, said Yugi. No one wants to be a poor baker. Your artists are very unkind. Alan Trevor laughed. I am busy, he said. Sit down and stop talking. A servant came in. A gentleman is outside, sir. He wants you to paint his portrait. Can you speak to him, please? Don't go away, Alan said to Yugi. I will be back in a moment. Alan left the room. The old beggar sat down on a chair and rested. His hat was still in his hand. The old man looked so sad that Yugi felt sorry for him. Yugi put his hand in his pocket. He had a pound. It was the last of his money. Well, he needs the money more than I do, thought Yugi. Yugi went across the room and put the pounds in the old man's hat. The old man was very surprised. He looked at the money and smiled. Thank you, sir, he said. Thank you very much. Alan Trevor came back into the studio and Yugi left. He went to see Laura and told her about the baker. You gave all your money away, said Laura. That was very foolish. My father will never let me marry a foolish man. You are my foolish, but you are very kind. And I love you very much. That night, Yugi met Alan Trevor at a club. Alan was looking very pleased. I finished that picture, said Alan. And my model was very interested in you. He asked me a lots of questions. Poor old man, said Yugi. I wish I could help him. What did he ask you about me? He wanted to know everything about you, said Alan. And what did you tell him? I told him everything, said Alan. I told him all about you. I told him about Lara. I told him about Laura's father. I told him, you want to marry Laura, but have no money. Alan said, Yugi angrily. You told him all about my private business. Don't be angry, said Alan. You don't know who I was painting the picture for. I was painting it for the Baron Asberg. He is one of the richest men in Europe. Baron Vocabularies was my model. The Baron dressed up as an old beggar. The Baron von Asberger, cried Yugi. You mean that old beggar was the Baron himself? Yes, said Alan. But I gave him a pound, said Yugi. Now I feel foolish. You gave me a pound, said Alan. That is the funniest thing I have ever heard. Alan Taylor could not stop laughing. Yugi Skin walked home. He felt foolish. He had given his last pound to a millionaire. Laura's father would hear about this. The colonel would never let his daughter marry a fool. The next day, Yugi Skin had a visitor. Yugi did not know the man. How can I help you? Asked Yugi. I have come from the Baron von Asberg, said the visitor. The Baron von Asberg, said Yugi asking. I did not know him when we met yesterday. I want to tell you, the Baron, that I am sorry. I think I was rude to him. The visitor smiled. You were not rude to the Baron, he said. The Baron asked me to give you this. He gave Yugi an envelope. Yugi thanked him and looked at the envelope. These words were written on the envelope, a wedding present to Yugi Skin or Laura mentioned from an old baker. Inside was a check for 10,000 pounds.